In the mist-shrouded hollows of central Kentucky, where dawn's fog still clings to long-abandoned fields, lie the silent ruins of Pleasant Hill, once a thriving Shaker village that vanished without a trace in 1834. Over 300 souls simply evaporated, leaving only empty cabins and a hush so deep that locals won't set foot there after sunset. For nearly 2 centuries, Kentucky's official files on Pleasant Hill have been locked away, buried in brittle ledgers that few dare to unseal. But now, newly unearthed reports from an Ohio inspector expose a horror far greater than mere disappearance, a horror that shatters our faith in America's most devout enclaves. What befell Pleasant Hill was no sudden calamity. It was 27 years of calculated terror, hidden behind hymns and communal meals. Before we unveil the secret authorities fought to conceal, a warning. This isn't light viewing. Only the bravest truth-seekers should continue. If you're ready to peer into America's shadowed past, subscribe now and drop in the comments the state you're watching from. Let's journey back to the dawn of the 19th century to see how one family's avarice corroded a sanctuary meant to be free of worldly sin. Founded in 1807 amid the Second Great Awakening's fervor, Pleasant Hill promised a new Eden. Shaker doctrines of celibacy, shared property, and strict separation from a corrupt outside world. Tucked into the fertile bluegrass near Harrodsburg, the village drew hundreds of converts, each entrusting their possessions and their lives to the Shaker ideal of spiritual perfection. At the heart of this seemingly devout community stood, at the core of Pleasant Hill's dark legacy, stood the Richardson clan, an iron root that spread through every facet of Shaker life. Elder Samuel Richardson towered over the trembling congregation, his grey eyes sharp as flint, his voice ringing with absolute authority. He arrived from Ohio claiming direct succession from Mother Ann Lee's first disciples, draped in spotless Shaker habit, wielding an encyclopedic grasp of doctrine that silenced even the fiercest skeptics. Beside him moved Sister Martha Richardson, seemingly saintly in public as she proclaimed her vow of celibacy. Yet, behind closed doors, she and Samuel maintained their secret bond in his private suite, an unholy union that fed her uncanny talent for piercing mortal hearts. With a whispered word, she could unmask every doubt and dread in a newcomer's soul, bending the frightened faithful to the family's will. Their eldest son, Brother Ezekiel, was a hulking figure of authority in the fields. He had recast Pleasant Hill's humble plots into a sprawling agribusiness, sending bales of flax and barrels of pickles downstream to Cincinnati markets. Brother Caleb served as the community's unseen sentry. He tracked whispered confessions and intercepted letters with the precision of a modern spy master. No secret found safe under his watch. Sister Rebecca, Samuel and Martha's first daughter, ruled the women's dormitories with iron compassion. At 28, she remained unwed, pouring feral maternal energy into molding new recruits. Her spiritual counseling was spoken of in hushed tones. Survivors still bear the scars of her relentless reformation. The youngest, Sister Patience, catalogued every scrap of village life with dead-eyed devotion. At 24, she was already a master forger, recreating handwriting so flawlessly that no outsider could tell truth from lie. And then there was John Richardson, Samuel's reclusive brother, whose true role remains whispered by survivors, the family's final safeguard, a shadow lurking just beyond the candlelight. Together, these 6 wove a web of piety and control so complete that no one noticed how the Shaker hymns hid a dirge for Pleasant Hill's vanished souls. In the mist-cloaked hollows of central Kentucky, where dawn's veil still lingers over abandoned meadows, stand the silent ruins of Pleasant Hill, a Shaker village that simply vanished in 1834. Over 300 souls disappeared overnight, leaving only empty cabins and a hush so deep that locals won't cross those fields after dark. For nearly 2 centuries, Kentucky sealed its records on Pleasant Hill in dusty archives few have dared to open. But recent testimony from an Ohio inspector has unearthed a terror far darker than mere disappearance, a conspiracy of faith and fear that spanned 27 years. Pleasant Hill's downfall wasn't an accident, it was a slow-burn nightmare hidden behind hymns and community meals. Before we reveal the secret authorities fought so desperately to bury, a warning: this channel isn't for everyone. Only the bravest truth-seekers should stay. If you're ready to face America's shadowed past, subscribe now and tell me in the comments which state you're watching from. Founded in 1807 amid the Second Great Awakening's blaze, Pleasant Hill promised purity, celibate worship, shared property, and complete separation from the sinful world. Nestled in the fertile bluegrass near Harrodsburg, it drew hundreds who surrendered their possessions and their trust to Shaker ideals. Yet at the heart of this holy facade lay the Richardson family, whose corruption ran as deep as Kentucky's limestone roots. Elder Samuel Richardson, a towering figure with steely grey eyes, claimed direct ordination from Mother Ann Lee's inner circle. His spotless habit and unshakable command of doctrine quelled any doubt. Sister Martha Richardson, publicly famed for her vow of celibacy, secretly shared Samuel's private quarters, using her uncanny gift for reading fears to manipulate every newcomer. Brother Ezekiel Richardson turned modest fields into a booming agribusiness, shipping Pleasant Hill produce to markets up and down the Ohio River. Brother Caleb Richardson served as the community's unseen sentinel, intercepting letters and overhearing confessions with the efficiency of a covert agency. Sister Rebecca Richardson, their eldest daughter, reigned over the women's dormitories with razor-sharp spiritual counseling that left survivors haunted. Sister Patience Richardson, only 24, catalogued village life and forged documents so flawlessly that no outsider could detect the lies. Brother Jeremiah Richardson ran the furniture workshops, twisting masterful craftsmanship into near slave labor for his own gain. Brother Isaiah Richardson, Samuel's cousin, managed the seed business that spanned 3 states. His farm visits the perfect cover for darker errands. Sister Hannah Collins, Martha's sister, controlled the kitchens, spiking meals with herbs that rewarded obedience and punished dissent. Mother Sarah Richardson, the family matriarch, lent an air of venerable piety even as she masterminded long-term strategies of manipulation. Brother Nathan Richardson, the youngest, smoothed relations with local officials and bought silence through generous church donations, ensuring Pleasant Hill's darkest secrets stayed buried. This was no isolated terror. It was a meticulously orchestrated web of surveillance and control, woven by 6 members of one family under the guise of holy devotion. What came next would shatter every assumption about faith and fanaticism in America's history. Every facet of life at Pleasant Hill funneled through the Richardson family. No chore assigned, no sermon planned, and no contract signed without Elder Samuel and Sister Martha's blessing in their nightly council. No member could wander beyond the grove's perimeter without a Richardson escort. Even a trip to Harrodsburg demanded written petitions and vigilant chaperones. In effect, they'd forged a perfect Shaker autocracy. Information cascaded downward, while ever-watchful eyes in every cottage and workshop snuffed out the faintest whisper of dissent. Surrounded by rolling bluegrass, yet cut off by unspoken fear, most settlers believed resistance was not only futile, but sinful. New converts endured an 18-week purification under Sister Rebecca and Sister Martha, who methodically stripped away old loyalties and shaped each initiate into an obedient shard of the Richardson will. By day 120, these once independent souls saw any question of family authority as heresy against the Shaker covenant. The community's daily rhythms reinforced this grip. At 4:30 a.m., Brother Caleb's bell roused assembled workers. Breakfast under Sister Hannah's watchful eye ensured no unauthorized herbs or spices disrupted the body or mind. From dawn to dusk, each task, be it weaving, pruning, or pickling, was designed to banish private thought. Evening worship, led by Samuel Richardson with Martha and their children in supporting roles, blended genuine Shaker hymns with subtle mind-bending rituals. Candles flickered over strategically placed scripture, reinforcing the message that true faith meant total surrender to Richardson guidance. The first fissure in Pleasant Hill's ironclad facade appeared on a bitter morning in February 1812, when Brother Thomas Whitman, once a prosperous merchantman, whose widow's fortune had seeded the community, began demanding an accounting of Richardson-led enterprises. A man of 45, broken by cholera loss yet buoyed by Shaker kinship, Thomas's dry goods capital had underwritten Ezekiel's sprawling agribusiness and Isaiah's booming seed trade. Thomas's sharp eye soon spotted troubling inconsistencies. Brother Isaiah's seed revenues didn't align with the community's ledgers, and unexplained charitable contributions seemed to vanish into Martha's private coffers. Conscience pricked, Thomas prepared to unearth the truth, unaware that his quest for answers would ignite a chain of events darker than any Shaker hymn. Thomas Whitman had noticed the inconsistencies long before he spoke up. On his sales calls to neighboring farms, the furniture workshop's orders seemed impossibly high, far more than the handful of craftsmen Ezekiel claimed. Even stranger, his monthly tallies of feed and supplies suggested the settlement was half its reported size. So, on a bitter February morning in 1812, Thomas stood before the packed meeting hall, weathered hands clutching neatly tabulated pages. His voice rang out clear and firm. "I have prayed on this, brothers and sisters. Our blessed community thrives, yet our ledgers refuse to align. Brother Isaiah reported $800 in seed sales last quarter, but the farms I visited show revenue closer to $1,200, and while we list 400 souls, our granaries and larders feed barely 250. A suffocating hush descended. Richardson family members exchanged micro-glances, silent signals sharper than daggers. Elder Samuel's calm mask barely concealed the tension at his temples. Sister Martha's gentle smile didn't falter, but her knuckles blanched white around her prayer book. Thomas pressed on, eyes blazing. Brother Jeremiah's workshops employ 50 hands, yet only 37 labor at the looms each sunrise. Should we not demand accuracy when stewarding God's bounty? At the far side, Brother Caleb rose, ostensibly to adjust the hearth's draft, but his purposeful stride positioned him between Thomas and any swift exit. Sister Rebecca's gaze never left Thomas, cataloguing each breath and flutter of expression. Around the hall, others subtly shifted, forming an invisible net of watchers. Then came the rebuke, not from Samuel, but Mother Sarah Richardson, her frailty belying a steel will. Her frail voice rang out, "Brother Thomas, your doubts betray a heart still bound by worldly concerns. Here, we trust our leaders, guided by divine light, to manage earthly matters for our spiritual welfare. Perhaps you require time in solemn prayer to purge these troubling thoughts." Samuel inclined his head, paternal concern softening his tone. "Your zeal honors us, dear brother, but your mind may yet be clouded by past affections. Sister Hannah, would you arrange for Thomas a season of reflection?" As Hannah rose to comply, Thomas realized the hall had closed in around him. His every ally was a stranger, his every escape barred by silent watchers. In that instant, he understood. Pleasant Hill's harmony was a cage, and his questions threatened to shatter the glass. What happened next would set a course for catastrophe far beyond ledger lines and missing dollars, an unholy climax hidden beneath hymns and harvest festivals. But first, Thomas would learn that at Pleasant Hill, truth itself was the greatest sin of all. "Brother Thomas," Sister Hannah murmured, pressing a chipped porcelain cup into his trembling hands, "some of this chamomile tea should calm your troubled spirit." The council lingered long into the afternoon, but Thomas Whitman's questions had shattered Pleasant Hill's serene veneer. As murmurs rippled through the hall, families averted their eyes, pretending to study hymnals or tighten shawls. By dusk, the first whispers of dread took root. Thomas was found in his dormitory, slumped across his straw mattress, cold to the touch. Sister Rebecca discovered his still form during her nightly rounds and raised the alarm. Brother Thomas passed peacefully in his sleep. Called home by the Lord after confessing his doubts in prayer, he asked forgiveness for allowing worldly cares to cloud his faith. The community received this as solemn truth. Questioning their leaders was tantamount to questioning providence itself. Thomas's funeral the next morning became a cautionary tale. Elders warned young converts never to let business claims interfere with spiritual submission. Yet young Sister Mary Caldwell, tasked with readying the dormitories each dawn, noticed unsettling details. A faint scent of bitter almond clung to Thomas's blankets, though his window had stood open all night. His fingernails bore a blue tinge she'd never before seen, and a thin line of foam stained the corner of his lips, evidence scrubbed away before Sister Rebecca's announcement. Mary watched in silent horror as Brother Caleb gathered every scrap of Thomas's ledgers and parish correspondence. Later that night, around the communal hearth, Elder Samuel presided over a cleansing ceremony, consigning those notebooks and letters to the flames. "We purge all taint of doubt from our sacred space," he intoned, eyes ablaze with fervor. Within hours, the Richardson grip tightened. Sister Martha led confession circles where members sobbed out any lingering worldly thoughts. Brother Ezekiel dispatched labor brigades at dawn, binding the faithful to fieldwork until twilight, leaving no moment for private reflection. In the flickering candlelight of that blessed commune, Thomas Whitman's unanswered questions became the final casualty of Pleasant Hill's perfect facade. His disappearance, so neatly explained by chant and ceremony, sealed the community. This fate, a society where truth itself was the deadliest sin, Brother Jeremiah convened nightly in the meeting hall to warn of the peril in doubting our spiritual leaders. He held Thomas Whitman's fate aloft as a grim lesson. When faith falters and worldly cares encroach, pure hearts break. These talks soon became the staple of community life, halting any spark of dissent and unmasking those whose eyes lingered with doubt. Most disturbing was how swiftly Brother Thomas's very memory was scrubbed from Pleasant Hill. Within days, his tools and tunics were redistributed, his daily chores reassigned, his name erased from every register save a single death notice. A month later, it was as if he'd never walked these lanes, his questions buried alongside his body. In the years that followed, a terrifying pattern took shape, refined with each cycle. Anyone who dared probe finances, speak of kin beyond the fences, or whisper of leaving was spoken of as soul in crisis. To contain them, Brother Jeremiah devised the retreat system. Under the guise of spiritual renewal, suspects were sent to solitary cabins scattered across the estate, rustic sanctuaries outwardly but inwardly prisons. Each one held a single room, heavy shutters barred from outside, doors locked only by those who held the keys. Hidden by pine and elm, no cry could ever reach the main village. Brother Caleb ran the intelligence network. He tapped into every choir circle and weaving workshop, noting hushed asides and furtive glances. To most, a passing nod from Caleb seemed chance. In truth, it marked them for observation. Retreat candidates were chosen by ruthless precision, new converts who probed the past too deeply, lifelong members who showed a flicker of independent thought, or anyone clinging too tightly to goods they had pledged to the order. Homesick confessions or blossoming friendships also invited exile. Sister Hannah Collins oversaw all correspondence with near-scientific rigor. She foraged samples of each member's handwriting before drafting final letters to anxious families. Her forgeries, laced with intimate details of vanished lives, silenced every inquiry beyond Pleasant Hill's borders. She kept elaborate files, birth names, pre-conversion addresses, kinship charts. No outsider suspected how intricately their loved one's last words had been fabricated, including the bitter truths they'd never uttered. In this house of prayer, the Richardson family's grip tightened with every ceremony, every sealed cabin, every forged line. And all the while, the true horror lay in knowing that at Pleasant Hill, questioning faith itself was the deadliest sin of all. When the Richardsons marked someone for removal, Sister Hannah set the wheels in motion. She drafted half a dozen letters, each one more heartfelt than the last, destined to arrive over months, weaving a tapestry of false comfort. Parents back in Ohio received tender notes from their children, speaking of divine callings to frontier missions they'd never reach. Siblings in Pennsylvania opened detailed accounts of peaceful passing, brief illnesses, whispered confessions, candle-lit farewells complete with epitaphs that never echoed through real churchyards. Every line was crafted to soothe grief, yet seal doubt. Each letter was a mirror of emotional manipulation, designed to close mouths and minds alike. Brother Isaiah's seed routes served more than farms. Under the guise of legitimate commerce, he buried more than bodies in Kentucky's limestone hollows. His monthly treks to Ohio and Tennessee gave him perfect cover to unload secrets and corpses into remote earth. Farmers welcomed his wagon and never paused at odd night stops. His seed wagons, innocuous by day, hid secret compartments for grisly cargo by night. Isaiah's unfailing punctuality turned his absences into alibis. No customer ever questioned the missing hours he claimed were spent tending distant fields. Occasional inquiries by local constables were met with Sister Patience's impeccable records, medical logs declaring natural causes, travel manifests showing voluntary departures, and burial registers for graves in the community cemetery that held no bodies. Patience's paperwork was a marvel of deception. She kept exhaustive dossiers, birth names, pre-conversion trades, even handwriting samples. From these, she forged resignation letters and final farewells that read with painful authenticity. Her forgeries so flawless, they silenced every inquiry. All the while, the Richardsons perfected psychological control. They built a closed world where questioning leadership equaled spiritual failure. Obedience was the highest virtue. Neighbors policed each other's thoughts and deeds. Yet Pleasant Hill never shrank. Despite relentless vanishings, its population clung near 400, thanks to what Brother Caleb privately called natural selection. Rule breakers were quietly removed, eager new converts whisked in to fill the ranks and donate fresh property to the family coffers. New arrivals faced the Richardson women's scrutiny. Sister Rebecca's spiritual counseling interviews masked a ruthless vetting. Each convert's questions, family ties, and independent streaks were weighed like gold and lead. Only those deemed safe earned a place in the fold. Others found themselves sent on retreats they never returned from. In this shining Shaker paradise, the gravest sin was curiosity. And the most chilling truth? Every letter, every seed bag, every forged signature was a thread in the Richardson family's deadly tapestry, one that no outsider would ever untangle. Each newcomer to Pleasant Hill was meticulously assessed. Sister Rebecca compiled psychological dossiers detailing family ties, personal strengths, and potential value to the order, while Sister Martha's network of informant nets whispered every private fear back to Samuel's nightly counsels. Those deemed dangerous were quietly flagged for early removal. Those judged valuable entered a 6-month crucible of indoctrination that erased past identities and forged unwavering loyalty. This gradual reprogramming blended genuine Shaker devotion with systematic psychological torment. New converts were stripped of outside contact, then alternately doused in comforting attention and abandoned to intentional neglect. Craving approval, they surrendered the last remnants of self. By 1825, Pleasant Hill functioned like clockwork, a machine of exploitation honed over nearly 2 decades. The Richardsons had turned opportunism into a vast criminal enterprise that churned out profits while maintaining an untarnished piety. Elder Samuel remained the community's soaring orator and living testament to Shaker purity, drawing fresh recruits with honeyed sermons that pointed their gaze toward heaven, not the family's coffers. Sister Martha, meanwhile, had codified manipulation into a dark science. Her psychological profiles, updated daily, mapped each soul's vulnerabilities. In just 3 months, she could break the most resistant minds, replacing doubt with devout obedience. Brother Ezekiel's fields stretched farther than ever, feeding markets in Louisville, Lexington, and Cincinnati. Under his iron rule, unpaid laborers toiled 14-hour days, making Pleasant Hill farms more profitable than any rival operation on paper, though none of those riches ever showed up in member ledgers. Brother Jeremiah's furniture workshops, famed for their flawless finish, ran on the same invisible servitude. Apprentices carved heirloom chairs and maple clocks in grueling shifts, their sweat fueling the family's fortune. Brother Isaiah's seed routes served dual masters. By day he sold grain and flower seed across 3 states. By night his modified wagons carried darker cargo, bodies buried in distant hollows where no census could follow. His punctual absences stirred no suspicion. His merchant's reputation was spotless. All the while, Sister Patience's archive stood ready to stave off inquiry. Her forged departure letters and death notices, backed by flawless travel papers and medical logs, convinced every anxious relative that their loved one had either answered a divine call or passed peacefully on. Through surveillance tight as iron bands, clandestine retreats in locked cabins, and a steady influx of pliant converts, the Richardson family maintained a ruthless equilibrium. Any soul who dared question their authority simply vanished, and Pleasant Hill's dark secret remained unchallenged. In the shadow of Pleasant Hill's abandoned cabins lies the secret of how its leaders turned faith into a human trafficking machine. When newcomers arrived at this Shaker haven, they didn't know they'd be catalogued, profiled, and either bound for life or sold off like chattel. Before we dive into the chilling mechanics of how the Richardson family chose who stayed and who vanished, I need a favor. This channel isn't for the faint-hearted. Only those bold enough to face America's darkest truths should stick around. If that's you, hit subscribe and drop your state in the comments. A community under watch. Every convert passed through Sister Rebecca's spiritual counseling, her soft voice masking a surgeon's precision. She built detailed dossiers on each soul, family ties, hidden fears, secret talents. Those marked dangerous were slated for early removal. Those deemed valuable entered months of indoctrination so thorough they forgot their own names. The perfect cover. By day, Brother Way, Sire's seed wagons trundled along Kentucky backroads, offering help to farmers in Ohio and Tennessee. By night, those same wagons carted bodies to remote hollows, buried beneath innocent soil. His punctual reputation silenced every doubt. Under the guise of devout commerce, he created a smokescreen no outsider could pierce. Letters from the lost. Back home, Sister Hannah unleashed her masterwork. A cascade of forged letters that soothed parents and siblings into acceptance. Ohio families read of children called to frontier missions. Pennsylvania relatives received accounts of peaceful deaths and silent burials. Each note was a balm, and a brick in the wall keeping questions at bay. Slave labor in plain sight. Brother Ezekiel's fields fed cities, Louisville, Lexington, Cincinnati, while unpaid workers toiled sunrise to sunset under the banner of spiritual duty. Brother Jeremiah's furniture workshops turned out heirloom-quality chairs, each swing of the saw a testament to Shaker craft and a testament to Vold-like exploitation. A cage of mind and land. Pleasant Hill's villagers rarely glimpsed the outside world. Pathways led only to Richardson properties. Any Harrodsburg visit needed a pass. Miss a curfew or wander too far, and you risked a retreat, a locked cabin where solitude turned sweet faith into silent terror. Eyes everywhere. Brother Caleb orchestrated a vast spy network. Every whispered doubt, every furtive note passed was fed to his informants. Casual nods became coded signals. No one realized that each glance from Caleb was a thread in the web that trapped them. A paid protector. Outside Pleasant Hill, Sheriff William Morrison thought he'd found a model commune. Generous donations greased his campaign and private coffers. In return, he turned a blind eye to rumors of disappearances, because who questions a Shaker miracle? Elder Meckham, we are honored by your presence and keen to confirm our devotion to Mother Ann Lee, Samuel began, voice steady, though his heart thundered. Yet our records follow Kentucky customs, which may differ from Ohio's. Might we arrange a less formal review, one that respects our unique ways? Mackham's calm gaze never wavered. Brother Samuel, Shaker truths are universal, not bound by region. We'll begin with membership rolls and burial registers tomorrow morning and proceed to private interviews as our charter demands. That night, the Richardsons' private quarters crackled with panic. Mother Sarah, frail in frame but iron in resolve, rose from her chair. This man sees through every mask we wear, she hissed. He wants documents we cannot produce without unraveling our entire design. We must stall, misdirect, or, if necessary, silence him before dawn. Isaiah paced the room. He asks for 5 years of ledgers, but our troubles reach back farther. He'll spot that we list 400 members, but barely 200 souls labor here, and our burial books won't match either. Sister Hannah added, voice quivering. He's already noted inconsistencies in my correspondence. He knows Shaker script I've never mastered, and he quizzes us on Mother Lee's earliest hymns, lessons we never learned. Each attempt to deflect only steeled Meckham's resolve. He challenged storm-damaged archives that showed no weathering. He refused hand-picked interviewees, insisting on random selection from a complete list. Brother Caleb's spy network collapsed. Meckham varied his schedule, shifting venues, reading the room's energy, alert to every hidden watcher. His questions cut like scalpels, revealing knowledge no charade could hide. Most terrifying of all, a few villagers, encountering Meckham's genuine warmth and conviction, reacted as if touched by grace, eyes widening, bodies slackening. Struck by a truth that scared them more than any family secret ever could. For the first time in 20 years, Pleasant Hill's carefully controlled world began to crack. Sister Mary Caldwell, who'd watched Brother Thomas Whitman die under suspicious circumstances, felt a seed of hope take root in her heart when Elder Meckham arrived. His calm authority, built on years beside Mother Ann Lee's earliest disciples, made her long-suppressed memories bubble to the surface. She found herself whispering warnings about friends who simply vanished. Meckham's presence was a shock to the system. He asked gentle questions about Shaker rights no one at Pleasant Hill had ever truly learned. Under his respectful gaze, workers in Brother Jeremiah's furniture shop stopped carving flawless chairs just long enough to ask him about authentic joinery. Their surprised faces spoke volumes. They'd never had proper training. In the women's dormitory, Sister Rebecca's iron grip loosened. Questions surfaced. Why don't we sing that hymn? Or, where did Mother Lee write about this ritual that shattered the illusion of her absolute authority? Then Meckham asked to hold a private memorial in the community cemetery. It seemed harmless. Samuel couldn't refuse, but he also couldn't let Meckham uncover graves that didn't exist. Brother Caleb volunteered to guide him. As they walked among the headstones, Meckham's keen eye caught what everyone else had missed. Brother Caleb, he said quietly, pointing to a weathered marker. This says William died in 1829, yet your correspondence files show a letter from him dated 1830. How do you explain that? Caleb's face went pale. Elder Meckham, perhaps a record-keeper's slip, he stammered. Even Sister Patience, as meticulous as she is, might err given the years and so many souls. Meekham's nod was patient, but his next words were ice. Shaker communities prid themselves on exact records. These mismatches point to something more than human error. That night, March 15th, 1834, Elder Meckham uncovered the hidden ledger beneath Mother Sarah's floorboards, the true burial list of 70 missing peasants, dozens more than the community claimed. In that single discovery, Pleasant Hill's 27 years of terror finally came to light. For 27 years, Pleasant Hill's secret lay buried beneath layered lies. Unable to sleep, Elder Meckham prowled the village's moonlit paths. 3 weeks of careful inquiry had uncovered too many gaps in the ledger. Tonight, he would seek answers where paperwork had failed him. The cemetery. Without Richardson oversight, he slipped past shuttered cabins to the graves. By lantern light, 2 worlds emerged. One, the official burial ground for visitors, 40 headstones in perfect rows, their chiseled names and dates from 1807 to 1834 gleaming in the dark. The other, a landscape of silent secrets. Meckham knelt among the stones. His practiced eye caught subtle dips in the earth, soft hollows where no marker stood. Soil tones shifted unnaturally. In some patches grass grew sparse, in others wildflowers thrived atop fresh fill, each telltale sign of graves left unacknowledged. He moved from headstone to headstone. A grave marked William 1829 sat beside a bare mound. Yet correspondence files placed William on a mission in Ohio in 1830. How could he die and depart on the same day? Meckham's lantern shook as he compared the dates, each mismatch a nail in the coffin of Pleasant Hill's facade. Footsteps froze him. Through the shadows crept Sister Mary Caldwell, the quiet maid who'd once tended Brother Thomas's body with trembling hands. Her face was pale but determined. "Elder Meckham," she whispered, voice barely carried by the breeze. "God sent you to see this. I've borne these horrors in silence for 20 years. Together they crouched among the headstones, Mary's words spilled out in halting breaths. I watched them dig at midnight. I heard the shovels turn earth over those they claimed had walked away. The Richardson family, they've murdered any soul who dared question them." Her confession hung in the frosty air like a benediction of truth. Brother Meekham's lantern cast their shadows long across the unmarked graves, each a testament to systematic elimination that stretched back nearly 3 decades. Under the watchful gaze of the stars, Pleasant Hill's perfect silence shattered at last. The true cost of blind faith was finally laid bare in the unquiet earth. The Richardson clan had built a death camp beneath the guise of a holy commune. Any soul who questioned the ledgers, voiced homesickness, showed seeds of leadership, or simply learned too much, was quietly removed. "I've seen Sister Hannah," Mary Caldwell gasped, urgency choking her words. "She stirs poisons into the evening broth for those who pry too deeply. Brother Thomas Whitman wasn't the first to vanish, just the first I dared watch. Brother Caleb," she whispered, voice raw, knows who speaks in hushed tones before they say a word. He intercepts letters, eavesdrops on dormitory doors, then they disappear within days. "And Brother Jeremiah," she continued, eyes darting toward candle-lit windows, "he hauls bodies in covered wagons on furniture runs. I've watched him shovel earth into his wagons at midnight and return with empty carts and dirt under his nails." Mary swallowed, composing herself. "They don't kill everyone." Her whisper cut through the night's hush. "The strong ones, the young, they're sold. Brother Isaiah's seed roots are just a cover. He ships people south as indentured servants." Elder Meckham's breath caught. Pleasant Hill wasn't a Shaker refuge gone astray. It was a criminal empire, never Shaker at all. Mother Sarah's schemes began at the start, Mary pressed on. The original Elder Samuel died in 1808, just 1 year after the founding. I was a child, but I remember him, gentle, devout, more concerned with our souls than with profit. The man preaching sermons now, he's a stranger. Meckham staggered under the truth's weight. For 25 years, the Richardsons had murdered and enslaved, twisting genuine faith into a weapon. They'd obliterated the real Shaker legacy and raised their own tyranny on its bones. As pale dawn light crept over the tombstones, Meckham faced his gravest choice. Confront the Richardsons here and risk becoming their next victim, the final silence in Pleasant Hill's catalogue of horrors, or flee these grounds to summon justice and pray the family didn't erase every last witness before dawn broke. Before dawn broke on March 16, 1834, Elder Meckham knelt among the headstones, the weight of nearly 300 lost souls pressing on his conscience. At his side, Sister Mary Caldwell trembled, her fate now bound to his choice. Around them, the cemetery lay hushed, bearing witness to decades of murder masked by devotion. His decision would seal the Richardson clan's fate, expose them here and risk instant execution, or flee with Mary to summon true justice. If you've stayed this far, you're not faint of heart. Hit subscribe and drop your state below, because what follows is only for those ready to face America's darkest secrets. Flight into the night. Under moonless skies, Meckham lifted Mary onto his horse and urged his mount toward Harrodsburg. 3 weeks of meticulous records and her shattered testimony shattered any doubt. The Richardsons had never been Shakers. They were a terror machine, summoning the law. Reaching the town by dawn, Meckham and Mary confronted Sheriff Morrison. The sheriff's polite nod belied his long complicity, paid handsomely to look away. Worse, local courts were under the Richardsons' sway. They needed federal power. Enter Captain James Crawford, fresh with a detachment of 12 marshals and orders that trumped every county line. The raid. At sunrise, the detachment encircled Pleasant Hill. What they found would haunt Kentucky's records forever. The family, cornered and frantic, had chosen a final atrocity. Of the 250 souls alive when Meckham arrived, only 37 remained free. The rest lay locked in dank cellars beneath the meeting house, starving, thirsty and terrorized as the Richardsons debated selling them off or slaughtering them all. Survivor testimonies. Those rescued told of human trafficking beyond horrific. Young, healthy members bound for plantations in Mississippi and Alabama, contracts signed and payments received under the guise of voluntary missions. Others had vanished into unmarked graves, their final rest recorded only in Brother Jeremiah's secret maps. Unearthing the evidence. Across the Richardson estate, marshals uncovered over 150 unmarked burial pits. Remains bore signs of poisoning, strangulation, and brutal blows, each atrocity timed to moments when dissent threatened the family's control. In Jeremiah's workshop lay ledger books more precise than any merchant's, names of buyers, prices paid, even shipment dates. Profits, a staggering $40,000. Justice at last. As the sun climbed over Pleasant Hill's ruined cottages, Meckham watched survivors embrace freedom with eyes hollowed by betrayal and grief. The Richardson reign of terror had finally been broken. If this story chilled you to the bone, share it with someone who dares to question the world around them. Like and subscribe for more deep dives into history's darkest corners. And remember, the greatest evil can wear the purest disguise until enough brave souls dare to pull back the veil. Over the past decade, the Richardson Empire's secret profits eclipsed every lawful venture, yet nothing froze investigators more than the finding of Sister Martha Richardson's private journal. Handwritten over 15 years, it chronicled cold-blooded experiments in human manipulation so advanced they would daunt modern psychologists. Martha made clinical notes on which tactics shattered resistance: isolation, praise, deprivation, each tailored to a specific personality type. She logged step-by-step breakdowns of faith, detailed matrices of obedience tests, and expansion plans for new territories ripe for exploitation. There was not a shred of remorse in her pages, only precise observations on how best to harvest fear and loyalty from human souls. Buried among her entries lay exhaustive profiles on every member, assessments of each person's labor value, likelihood of descent, usefulness as breeding stock, and suitability for sale or slaughter. Under Martha's vigilant hand, people became mere resources, tools to be deployed or disposed of at the family's whim. The Richardsons' downfall came swiftly. In summer 1834, Samuel, Martha, and their 6 adult offspring stood trial in Frankfurt on charges of murder, kidnapping, fraud, and human trafficking. Newspapers from Boston to New Orleans clamored for details as witness upon witness painted a portrait of industrial-scale brutality cloaked in prayer. They spoke of basements used as slaughterhouses, children sold south on seed wagons, and human lives catalogued like livestock. Evidence was overwhelming. Jurors took just 2 hours to convict all 7 Richardsons. In October, each faced the scaffold before crowds that included survivors and descendants of those sold into bondage. The executions tasted of justice, but could not resurrect the stolen years or salve the wounds of the 37 souls who had escaped and lived to, testify. Those survivors faced the Herculean task of rebuilding broken identities. Decades of psychological torture and physical abuse had stripped away personal histories and severed ties to the outside world. Many bore the scars of what we now call post-traumatic stress, sleepless nights, panic attacks, and a terror so deep they could trust neither faith nor friend again. Several never found peace. Haunted by whispered confessions and the faces of lost comrades, they spent their twilight years in state institutions, shells of the people they once were, forever haunted by Pleasant Hill's silent graves and the monstrous family that had commanded their fates. In the wake of Pleasant Hill's collapse, the brutality that lingered in its bones could have crushed any hope of recovery, yet some found the strength to rebuild. Under Elder Meckham's guidance, the Ohio Union of Shaker Communities created a relief fund for survivors, offering grants, vocational training, and counseling that slowly coaxed dozens towards stability and a measure of peace. Meanwhile, the Commonwealth of Kentucky quietly sealed nearly all investigative files, fearing that full disclosure would stain the bluegrass with scandal and scare off pious settlers. Under state supervision, Pleasant Hill's cabins were razed and its acres parceled to private farmers, who were simply told the Shakers had disbanded over financial challenges. Rumors rose in the vacuum where facts should have been, myths that masked the true horror beneath those fields. Only now, with modern historians granted rare access to the sealed archives, do we glimpse the full scope. Estimates suggest the Richardsons butchered or trafficked upwards of 400 souls across 27 years, likely an undercount since their ledgers tracked profit first, people second. Pleasant Hill's tragedy teaches a grim lesson. The most sacred beliefs can be twisted into instruments of oppression. The Richardsons preyed on faith, manipulating spiritual longing into a cage so complete that resistance felt impossible. They weaponized isolation, cutting victims off from any hope of outside aid. Their reign shows why religious communities must stay connected to the wider world, to clergy oversight, civil authorities, and supporting networks, so that secrecy never becomes the breeding ground for unchecked evil. What's your take? Do you believe every atrocity at Pleasant Hill is now revealed, or might Kentucky's sealed vaults conceal even darker truths? Drop your thoughts below and share your theories on what horrors still lie buried in those forbidden files. If this tale sent a chill down your spine, subscribe and ring the bell for more hidden histories. Share with someone who believes that vigilance is the only shield against the monsters who wear robes of piety. See you in the next video if you dare.